We are here today to launch our elections monitoring report titled Front Lines of Democracy, Safeguarding Human Rights during the 2022 general elections in Kenya. We are calling it Front Lines because we feel that the monitors who were monitoring the elections from March all the way to October this year were actually human rights defenders of democracy at the front line. And so we have that title to recognize them. And in this report, we have two parts in the report. The first part is to document the preparations before the elections, because we had a long-term strategy of preparing various institutions and communities to ensure that we have a better experience with regard to human rights, that we had less human rights violations, that the police would respect human rights better as compared to other elections in Kenya. As you are aware, in the post-election violence of 2008, we lost over 1,300 people, and out of that number, 400 were killed by the police. And in subsequent years, we've also had police use excessive force or abuse of force or abuse of power that led to injuries and deaths. So we began preparing for these elections in 2018 by having dialogue with the police, training them, developing good partnerships between the police and the people, equipping police stations with GBV centers for them to have capacity to be able to respond to GBV cases in case they happen. And some of the findings, therefore, number one is that we have found there's a value in preparing very early for the elections. So our early preparations have helped to prevent, or have made a contribution to prevent the violations of human rights during the 2022 general elections. The other finding is that the police behaved better. And so we commend police officers across the country for conducting public order management in a manner that did not violate human rights. The other finding is that, of course, there were a few cases of violence. Out of a total of over 12,000 reports that we received from 122 monitors spread across 41 counties, we received about 115 cases of violence, mainly by civilians. And out of those 115, 21 of them were human rights violations. 5 of them, were deaths, mainly civilian to civilian violence. And so what we noted from that violence is that in some cases where there were injuries between civilians or deaths resulting from civilian to civilian violence, there were cases of police inaction, police not acting to prevent. So even as we focus on the fact that the police did not commit violations, we do note that by failure to act to prevent civilian to civilian violence, that led to injuries and also led to deaths. We have also noted in this report that even though we have not documented cases of police violations related to elections, the torture, dehumanizing treatment and punishment, extrajudicial executions, and enforced disappearances by the police continued. Actually, in 2022, we have recorded more violations by the police than the last 10 years. We documented 224 cases of police violations of human rights, 75 of them being people dying in police action, and the rest being torture, dehumanizing treatment and punishment by the police, as well as extrajudicial executions and enforced disappearances.